everyone, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Mark this time with a match preview for Newcastle's early kickoff tomorrow against Manchester City. Obviously, after the result last week against Fulham, everyone is hoping for a better performance. Obviously, especially with Erling Haaland and his 150 mates coming to town. Tough ask, maybe, but Newcastle have proved they can match the champions on several occasions over the last couple of years. And when they're at the peak, when they're at the best, and they're really putting their best performances in. So we're obviously all the fans are hoping for that sort of performance more. And I think that's one of the things that you kind of have to hang your hat on, is that they come out of the best. The result may be sort of irrelevant in that regard, and a performance is absolutely what everybody wants. We're going to get stuck right into this, talk about how we think the lads are going to line up, talk about the opposition, and more importantly, how we think the game is going to go. If that's the kind of thing that you like, remember to smash the like and obviously subscribe and help us get to that 9,000 subs mark. We've just gone over 8,700, so we're well on the way. And don't forget, there is the Blue McEwen shirt to come as a prize once we reach 9,000 subscribers. So let's get stuck right in. As I said, obviously, it's not going to be an easy game. Newcastle have only won 2 of the last 20 games against City in all competitions. Only one of those 2 being in the Premier League. That was back in 2019, with goals from Salomon Rondon even, and Matt Ritchie, I think, with a late penalty. So we've got to go back a little while for the last Premier League win. It's certainly one of those fixtures that always puts a little bit of fear maybe into a fan when you come up against a City, especially the way that they've played. And obviously with kind of a really off-colour feel into the season so far, Newcastle could spend a huge amount of time with their backs to the wall tomorrow. But, you know, we've seen in the past they do step up against bigger opponents, and City have shown a capacity to concede goals as well. So you just never know. Newcastle on the game could really cause some problems. Obviously, with the news of a sort of renewed harmony behind the scenes as well, if you believe any of the reports, with Eddie Howe, with problems with Eddie Howe, then it could be that the team come in with sort of renewed ambition, especially with the reported European target that the owners have set for Howe this season. How harsh that may be, if you know, Europe or bust, I guess, is the target for him. I know obviously video went out last night with regards to the sort of the target that's been set, the ambition to be the best. So if you haven't checked that out already, check that one after you finish this video, and catch up with Chris from last night. One thing certain though, Newcastle have to find a way of keeping Erling Haaland quiet, and plug those gaps in between the lines that we talked about on Monday night. Particularly, City will be sure to exploit any gaps in there. They love to play through the lines. They love to get men into those gaps, and we've seen the balls that those sort of attacking players, the likes of Bernardo Silva, can play through to Haaland. Haaland always looking to make those runs. We saw last week early against Arsenal that he's able to run in between the defenders, and he's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the finishing ability. He's an absolute freak, and Newcastle have to be at their very, very best to stop him. Could we see a change in shape? We talked about this, on Mondays. What's going on? Could they drop to a sort of that double pivot, a 2 in midfield with one playing just ahead of them, or will we see Eddie Howe retain his well-loved 4-3-3? I think, to be honest, I think we'll see the latter. I think this, it's his tried and trusted, and I don't think he's going to go with anything too drastic, particularly with City coming to town. So this is how I think Eddie might go with the team selection. Obviously, let us know your predicted lineups in the comments below. So here we go. So obviously Nick Pope continuing to play in goal. We've talked about the issues with his performance. We've definitely seen issues, particularly with some of the saves against Spurs and against Fulham last week. But I guess the question for me, would Eddie drop Pope for any of the other keepers in the squad? I can't see it, especially against City. So I think he sort of retains his place. I've gone with a back four of Trippier, Schär, Burn and Hall. I've sort of gone against Chris with this. Obviously, he was going to do the preview today, but I've stepped in for this one. But I think Chris did prefer Tino at right back. I do think, though, that Eddie will go with the experienced head tomorrow, just with the opposition. That's my feeling. Again, let us know what you think in the comments. But the other three positions we completely agree on, with Lewis Hall coming in for Lloyd Kelly, who we both felt looked pretty average last week against Fulham. He's not really put in a performance yet, and I know he's sort of getting to grips with the Newcastle way, but he's certainly not justifying his wages at the moment, I don't think. But that might be a little harsh. But again, let us know if you agree with that one. In midfield, I think we've got to see the return of Sandro Tonali, surely. In a game when Newcastle will be starved of the ball, they'll want to make every possession count. And Tonali's probably the best on the ball, sort of in my view. And hopefully that'll see the side retain more of the ball when, certainly use it better. He's certainly, for me, a preferred option over Longstaff or Willock, in terms of his ability to pass the ball, retain possession like that. So, but it wouldn't surprise me to see a return to the starting lineup for Sean, if Eddie prioritises work rate over style. We know he loves his hard workers in midfield, and you could very well see the midfield trio of Longstaff, Bruno, and Joe Linton, together again. But for me, you've got to play your best available, and that is Tonali in that midfield alongside Bruno, and probably Joe Linton as well, hoping for a return to form for the big Brazilian, and hopefully a dominating performance in that midfield. He really needs to up his game, because he's been wayward since the Forest game, really, where he sort of put in a man of the match performance. And up front, pretty much an easy choice for me. Barnes left, Gordon right, Isak through the middle. Obviously, with the two wide players with the ability to swap, and we could see plenty of that during the game too. So how does this one go? Well, City haven't lost in the league since early December, I think. So on paper, it looks like an away banker, especially with the form Newcastle have been in. The results have been there, but I really don't think the performances have really matched. But if Eddie has everybody raising their levels, as we know he can, and the press is used effectively and gaps are filled, and there's always the possibility of a result, especially at St James's Park, crowd behind you. An early kickoff feel it can be a little bit odd at times, which I'll come to in a second. But City are without Rodri, who picked up that knee injury last week against Arsenal, and their win percentage without him drops 13% when he's not playing. He drops from 76 to 63%. I know we'd all cry at that. But yeah, he is a huge miss for them, and can Newcastle take advantage of that? We'll see, obviously, but they've got to try and take every advantage that they can. The most obvious replacement, obviously, I think, is Mateo Kovacic, but we could equally see John Stones playing there. He's done that before for City, or you could see Ilkay Gundogan playing in a deeper role, which he's also done. Kevin De Bruyne obviously looks likely to miss out again. I think Pep's talked about him this week being a little bit longer, maybe just out this week. So I think fortunate for Newcastle again that he's not available. He's such a game changer. He scored that goal from distance last season, and I think that was one of the goals that Chris touched on when he was talking about the midfield problems there last week. And obviously Nathan Ake and Oscar Bob is both still injured as well. So there's the potential. I think I've read some of the team news. Jack Grealish could return in place of Jeremy Doku, and Phil Foden is yet to start this season as well. So could we see him start a first game in the 24-25 season? Though I guess he probably looks more likely to remain an option off the bench. But I mean, what a player to have coming off the bench for them. It's or to have that problem there. Talking about early kickoffs before as well. Obviously, we know they can be an odd thing. I know Liverpool hate them, and they're not particularly fond of the 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday. But for Newcastle, in their last 2 early kickoffs, they've scored 4 in both of those games. A 4-0 win over Spurs and 4-3, I think it was, over West Ham. Equally, City have also scored 4 in their last 2 early kickoffs with wins over Fulham and Crystal Palace. So I'm not exactly sure we'll see the same for Newcastle this time around. But a pumped up City side, especially after that late equaliser against Arsenal last week, might be, they could be rampant. It could be a long old afternoon, particularly for that backline in Newcastle, and they've really got to be on their game. My head says a City win. I think tomorrow it's going to be a difficult day for Newcastle. I think they've really got to put in a performance. They've really got to pull one out and really everything go right to get something from the game. But they're capable of doing it. I do think Newcastle will score though. City, like I said earlier, they're good for conceding a goal. I think this season we've seen that against, particularly against Ipswich early, against Brentford early as well. So definitely there's a goal in there for Newcastle. So that get an early goal, and it's difficult to hold on certainly, but open it up and maybe catch City on the break. Gordon's pace, Barnes' guile, and Isak's pace as well. Catching them on the break. You could get a result there, definitely, but I think I'm going to go 3-1 for City. You can all throw things at me right now. That's absolutely fine. I don't mind that at all. But that's just what's in my head for a result for tomorrow. Obviously, let us know in the comments what you guys think about the fixture. Do you think it's going to be straightforward for City, as many do think, or can Newcastle put in that performance and get something out of the game? Obviously, let us know your lineups and your score predictions in the comments. Obviously, as always, we'll do our best to get back to you. If you're putting a comment in, we'll try and take the time to respond back to you as well. But just a reminder, just like the video, help the channel grow. Obviously, subscribe, what you asked before. Help us get to that 9K mark. We are getting there quickly. We'll obviously be back with a post-match reaction of the game on Saturday afternoon. And that's it. So keep it ever more, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you later. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.